We have that President Bola Tinubu has justified borrowing money from international financial institutions by his administration to finance his budget. He emphasized that obtaining loans is not a criminal act and that they were obtained to develop the nation's infrastructure. President Tinubu said this during his first presidential media chat on Monday. Borrowing is not criminal. We have serious infrastructural challenges, he said. In November, the two chambers of the National Assembly permitted Tinubu to obtain a $209 billion external loan, equivalent to 1.76 trillion naira. The loan is one of the many orders that Mr. Tinubu's administration has obtained through the approval of the National Assembly since he was sworn in as president. As of June, the Debt Management Office said Nigeria's domestic and external debt stood at 121.67 trillion naira, equivalent to 91.46 billion dollars. It would be part of the funds to finance the 2025-2024 budget. Since the approval, many Nigerians have criticized the Tinubu administration for taking more loans while struggling to pay for the country's debts. We were just talking about hardship and the situation surrounding it. And we have here that the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, has said that borrowing is not criminal and that it's an act to help us curb some of the issues surrounding the financial aspect of Nigeria. You also talked about the 10th Assembly and the 11th Assembly, the fact that the President actually went to borrow money, out of a due course. But I would love to ask Mr. Mufasa, what do you have to say about the situation? Is it actually a criminal act? Because why did this word have to be used? Did Nigerians say that borrowing is a criminal act? Why did the president have to make the statement that borrowing is not criminal? Because some countries actually borrow. But the intentions of borrowing is what really counts. But I'd love to get your thoughts about this.
For me, like you rightly asked, but unfortunately, the president is not here to answer that question, why he used such language as borrowing is not criminal. We all know that borrowing is not criminal. But the reasons for borrowing, we borrow every time to fund our budgets. We are told at the inception of this government that subsidy is gone, and most of the reasons why a lot of people were happy, celebrated the removal of fuel subsidy, we thought that it would reduce the level of borrowing. In the just past administration, we saw how the former government borrowed so much money, running over trillions of naira. Okay. Now, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu came thinking that, things will be done differently. But what we saw is, a complete far cry. And he's telling us with confidence, with audacity, that he's still going to borrow more, that it's not even criminal to borrow. What does that tell you? That Nigerians don't even matter in the scheme of things, And we have a National Assembly who would just pander to the whims and caprices of the executive arm of government. That the president comes to say that I want to borrow, and the next thing you see, they just give him a nod and say, okay, all the eyes have it and all of that. Because at the end of the day, allegedly, they get what they get from what is gotten from, from borrowing. But this is not what we want to see going forward as a people. Then why do we now have to celebrate that famous removal of fuel subsidy? If we are complaining before now that the reason for borrowing humongous amount of money is to finance payment of subsidy and, a whole lot. They've removed subsidy from electricity. They've removed subsidy from petroleum products. And we are still borrowing billions of dollars to fund our budgets. What does that tell you? It tells you that this man has come to continue from that same path that Nigerians have said we shouldn't be moving in that path and direction. Because imagine when you borrow so much, how do you pay back? Then, like you ask, what are the things that you see on the ground to show that what is even borrowed has been expended wisely? How can you borrow money to pay salaries? You borrow money to live luxurious living lifestyle, buy private jets, building houses for themselves. So these are the issues. So for me, I think rather than coming to say that it's not criminal and all of that, the president should have told Nigerians what the monies that has been borrowed before, what it was used for. Because it shows that you don't even care about the opinions of the people.
Eventually.
Yeah, that's the truth. You don't borrow to pay salaries, whereas federal roads are bad. You know, Nigeria currently is passing through the worst state of dilapidation in terms of infrastructure. Our industry are moribund. Our refineries, we can't fix them. And we're saying that borrowing is not criminal. The ones you've borrowed before, what have you done with it? That is the question Nigerians are asking. And unfortunately, we have a National Assembly that is supposed to check the excesses of the executive arm of government. They're supposed to do proper oversight and probe to know what the ones that were borrowed before used for. What are you going to use this one for? Okay. Instead, they will tell you that whatever the president brings, they are going to give it their note. And it is quite unfortunate. So for me, rather than being completely insensitive to the plight of Nigerians, the president should have gone a step further to explain to Nigerians that the ones that were borrowed before, so and so things was done with it, so and so industry was, you know, revamped and is now in working condition. Okay. And refineries that they said it has been going regular turnaround maintenance and we are not seeing anything turning. This is the extent that we've gotten to. Rather than doing that, he's telling us boldly that it's not criminal. I'm going to borrow more, and the National Assembly will tell you that whether the president explained to them what the money will be used for or not, they are going to endorse it. So it's a very sad tale for us as a people.
Thank you on that, Mr. Mufasa. But quickly, Comrade Oscar, I want to get your thoughts. The president actually made a statement that he does not regret removing the fuel subsidy. Do you think that the fuel subsidy removal has done any harm? Do you think that he had a good intention for removing the fuel subsidy?
Thank you. You know, Bola Tinubu talk has become a very serious problem to some of us. You know, why we are worried about the Nigeria president is because he doesn't listen. And also because he doesn't listen to the demand and the worries of Nigerians. He paid deaf ear to the worries of Nigeria. And we begin to ask, every sick president, every person that contested for Nigeria president from the sick bay, when they become president, became so healthy and so fresh. And that's the case of Bola Tinubu, and that's the case of Buhari. They were very sick. As we speak right now, nobody's talking about the sickness of Buhari again. Tinubu was very, very sick to an extent that he couldn't even present his manifesto during his electoral campaign. Tinubu was so sick that he was rushed to the hospital at every given time. Even to make a speech, he was not able to even present a speech to Nigerians. But today, he is so healthy with Nigeria resources. And you don't care about the health situation of other well-meaning Nigerians. You don't care about the health situation of other Nigerians. Today, he can sit down and eat 3 square meals. Someone that couldn't even eat a square meal because of his sickness. Even with the resources he has, even with his personal resources, he couldn't treat himself. Now you are now using Nigeria resources to take good care of yourself, and you are not paying attention to the situation that other Nigerians are facing. And you think you are the only citizen in this country because you are the number 1 citizen of the country. It becomes so bad and becomes something we have to talk direct to Mr. President. Because when a president fails to listen to the people will talk direct at you. And that's exactly what Nigerians are doing. Nigeria will soon talk very direct and very insulting messages will be sent to Mr. President. If he continue in this line of direction, I think he should be advised, because in the Western world, nothing like this is being done. You travel every day, you travel every month out of Nigeria just to get Western knowledge of how to govern your people. And you came back with zero policies. You came back with nothing. Rather, the only resources you come back with is how you can be able to loot Nigeria resources and how you are going to transfer Nigeria currency into another currency. And then that's what Mr. President and his cabinet members are just known for. Why are we talking about this situation right now? The first pronouncement Mr. President made upon his assumption of swearing in office was the removal of oil subsidy. And he said, whether we protest from now till next year, whether we protest and kill ourselves during the protest, he was not going to listen to the removal of fuel subsidy. And he said that the purpose why the removal of fuel subsidy was necessary was because it was going to improve the lives of Nigerians. That was the reason, according to him. Even though we were aware that that was just a political statement, because we are aware that this whole thing is going to happen. That's why you said that, hey, we are living well. Because we are not bothered anymore. Because we decide to allow Mr. President. We know that this is the kind of government we are going to face. We are already aware. The only unfortunate situation is our parents that was not aware, because they are now on our neck. But we was aware that this is what we are going to face if Mr. Bola Tinubu becomes Nigeria president. And that's exactly what we are facing. We cannot remove a fuel subsidy without setting a standard. There was no standard, there was no provision of any other thing Mr. President set up before removing the fuel subsidy. You never ensured that the refineries were working, according to my brother and according to well many Nigerians. You never. The refineries were
We've
working.
actually had the case from Melekere that the Port Harcourt refinery is actually working and functioning.
You don't know Melekere. Who is Melekere? In case you are not aware, Melekere was the same person that employed Tinubu in Mobile. So it is just a payback time for Mr. President. So it's just Nigeria is like a payback thing to each other. They are not here to govern the country. So what was the role of Melekere in the lives of Tinubu before Tinubu became the president? What was the reason why he was called back? Has his tenure not elapsed? Is it supposed to be a lifetime CMLG or COD? The GMG of NNPC? Was it supposed to be a lifetime one? Is his position a lifetime position that no other persons or no other Nigerians are qualified? Is that the kind of case we have in Melekere? So we are aware that Melekere is just a stooge by Mr. President to do the unneedful. And that's what we are facing at this point in time. So we don't expect anything good from Melekere. The only person that wanted the situation to work perfect have been sentenced and have been going to different courts. That's the former CBN governor. Okay, so we know what is going on in this part of the world. But unfortunately, do we have a situation where Mr. President was complaining? I remember Mr. President and Wole Soyinka. I don't know where is Wole Soyinka now. I don't know if he has fled out of Nigeria or if he's still in Nigeria or if he's ashamed of himself and he has hid himself somewhere. I don't know where he is right now, because Wole Soyinka, Bola Tinubu, was the first set of people that led a protest in this country when we are buying fuel at the rate of 162 naira. When President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan was the president, the former president. And then Wole Soyinka came up and said, enough is enough. Bola Tinubu told the then president that allow the poor to breathe. So are the poor breathing or the poor are dying? Well, you can imagine the poor dying. So it is obvious that Bola Tinubu does not mean well for Nigerians, never had any good intention for the removal of fuel subsidy, never had any good intention to become Nigeria's next president.
Okay, thank you so much.